Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cleveland Sports Pros podcast. I'm Matt alongside my brother Nick. Nick, how's it going today?
Great. It's a really exciting week for Cleveland Browns fans and Cleveland fans in general.
Yep, for sure. Today we're going to talk about Joe Thomas and him being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend. We'll give kind of an update and have a discussion around the Browns and training camp and their Hall of Fame game coming up tomorrow. The Guardians got no hit last night, and we'll provide an update on that. So let's first start with the good news. Joe Thomas. He's just a hallmark of Cleveland Browns fans. All around great guy. His jersey sales were tremendous for anyone, especially a lineman. I remember the day he got drafted. Nick, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of short videos on him lately, and he he's just a very humble man and player. When he was drafted in third overall in 2007 by the Browns, left tackle, and um, it's just amazing what he has accomplished as a left tackle. I understand that isn't the most standout position compared to like QB or wideout, but he had some tremendous stats throughout his uh, entire career, all with the Cleveland Browns, which is probably the biggest accomplishment in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to that day he was drafted, I remember it vividly. Drafted third overall. Normally, those guys are at the time is in New York. They're all there, and they're excited to be there, and they have every right to be. But he was out fishing with his dad, and he took a phone call from the boat they were on. And when you say he's a humble guy, I mean that's just one example of it. He to stick with the Browns the way he did. He probably there were rumors all the time that he could have gone elsewhere. I think a big one was going to Denver to play with Peyton Manning, but he chose to stay in Cleveland. He was loyal to Cleveland, even though he was a part of some very, very bad teams. He was just so reliable. You never had to worry about him. Rarely did he have a penalty. Rarely would he ever give up a sack. And he just led with his actions on the field. And, kind of like guys like Nick Chubb, who are quiet, they do their job. Rarely do they get penalized or anything like that. And those guys are really important for the locker room. And Cleveland Browns fans are extremely lucky to have had him for, all those years. And, he'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame this Saturday. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to be going to that or hoping to go at least. And, we can't wait to see that. But prior to the induction ceremony, tomorrow night, Thursday, the Browns are playing, I guess you could say, hosting the Jets in the Hall of Fame game. Nick, what do you have for us on that?
Well, as myself and many fans are aware, um, as excited as we are to have football back, this is mostly a game for third and fourth stringers on both sides of the ball in both the Browns and Jets. This isn't going to be Rodgers against Watson. This isn't going to be, uh, Chubb out on the field, but it's going to be exciting to see because so many Cleveland fans are excited to have football back. I believe we are under 40 days away from week one, which is September 10th, when the Bengals will come to Cleveland and face off in that very exciting week one. Cleveland will have all three division matchups, three of the first four games, and then an early bye. Just an exciting time of year. August 2nd, and we're getting closer and closer to week 1.
Yeah, definitely. And, us Browns fans are kind of used to setting expectations high, or at least not even always high, but and them not being met. But Nick, what kind of hope do Browns fans have? What have you seen and heard this offseason that should give us hope for a team that can, not only win week 1, but win the division or at least get a wild card?
Yeah, I enjoy watching, like YouTube videos or reading articles in the paper written by Terry Pluto, who is a tremendous source. And some fans may be excited, some may not. But what I've heard is this is Watson's team. He's the leader on and off the field. His teammates are ready to follow him. And what that also means is this is Watson's team, meaning Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun have worked out a offensive playbook to fit his scheme, to fit what he's accomplished in Houston. Deshaun will have a greater control, making a play change at the line of scrimmage, depending on what he sees on defense. There will be more shotgun, more no huddle, and it'll be a faster pace, pass first team. And I know there are fans out there that are wondering how does this affect Nick Chubb. I'm also curious to see how that will play out, but I'm sure Watson and Nick in particular are working hard together to not only build up his legs when he is given the ball on handoffs, but to turn him into a threat, maybe throwing the ball underneath and just letting players like Nick and even the Jerome Ford, um, get some big plays and take off and get those extra yards after catch. I know fans are upset about losing Kareem Hunt, but it's going to be exciting to see a brand new playbook.
Yeah, and to me, and probably for a lot of people, this is make it or break it for Kevin Stefanski. This will be a full year with a proven quarterback. He will need to dial up the offense. He will need to get more creative. It's a stark difference when you look at teams like Kansas City. We know Pat Mahomes is a generational talent, but Kansas City and the plays that they run and the plays that we've kind of gotten used to seeing Stefanski run, he's a good play caller, even great at times, especially in the first, scripted series. But very often after that, it falls apart. And very often, not only is it just play calling, but it's penalties on his offense or poor time management, things like that fans have been critical of. So I think he's up for it. It's just, we're excited and we're going to have to wait and see.
And one final point I'd like to make about the Browns, because it's not just about the offense, it's a team effort, offense, defense, special teams. As we all know, the big coaching name we brought in was Jim Schwartz, who was with the Philadelphia Eagles at one point when it wasn't last year's. They lost the Super Bowl last year, but that was not the Eagles franchise he was with. But I've listened to many players such as Usu Koromora, Denzel Ward, and Greg Newsome, name any player you want. They are mentioning to the media that they are playing more free and more excited to go out and go after the quarterback, and they're not going to be held back. They're going to be, trying to hoping for more turnovers to get the Browns more chances to score and take control of football games. And how could I leave out the big name Myles Garrett? And I know he had Jadeveon Clowney in the past, but big names, Zadarius Smith, that he will have on the opposite side of him could hopefully take away pressure and give him more opportunities to rack up those sacks.
Yeah, for sure. And playing a lot more man coverage, it seems, from what we've heard. And the Browns have talented corners, so that will in a very strong pass rush. So playing man will give them a lot of options to put pressure on the quarterback. So really looking forward to seeing that. Kind of fun for the fans on the field, but not scheme or play calling or anything like that. For the second year in a row, the Cleveland Browns are giving the fans an opportunity to vote on what will be the midfield logo. You can check it out. I think there's a place to vote on the Browns website, but the options right now are I think it's a brown and orange stripe across the 50-yard line on either side of the white. A dog, kind of a vicious looking dog, or face of a dog, the brownie elf from last year, and the classic orange helmet. So certainly our fans will want to voice their opinion on that. Nick, do you have a favorite?
I do. I voted on the number 3 option, the traditional helmet, and I just think it fits the best. I remember a couple years ago when they had the orange and brown line, and it looked too empty or bland, however you want to put it. What I truly think the Browns should do, and fans have also wondered this, is put the traditional helmet back in midfield, and in the corner of the end zone, put number 32 to honor running back Jim Brown, the Hall of Fame running back who passed away earlier this spring. I know for sure, without a doubt, they're gonna have some sort of ceremony for him game 1. You know, generational talent. You know, just it'd be special if they did a logo like that in the end zone as well.
Yep, I imagine they will. All right, well, one more thing before we go. We don't want to talk about it, but we will. The Guardians last night played the Houston Astros and got no hit. So I think this is the 5th time since 2020 this team's been no hit. So not good. And now we're 2 games back as Minnesota won last night as well. But Nick, any words on that?
Yeah, it's definitely an ugly feeling when your team gets no hit. In my opinion, especially against the Houston Astros, but that's just me. I was watching very closely last night, and around the time of the 5th inning, that's when I started to notice the no hitter, and I'm like, oh, they'll get a hit, and they were already behind 2-0 on the scoreboard, and it stayed that way. Of course, the only batter to reach base was, surprise, Oscar Gonzalez on via a walk, and the deepest ball hit last night came in the 1st inning. Jose Ramirez smacked the ball to the warning track. And I thought it was gonna clear the wall, but nothing really hard hit after that. And I was listening to the Final 6 Out on Tom Hamilton making all the calls, and even he said this is as routine as no hitters you'll see.
Yeah, 93 pitches.
93 pitches. And what surprises me, not just last night's no hitter, but I think there have been 3 combined no hitters. I believe the Yankees pitcher no hit the A's. The Tigers had a combined no hitter with the 2 relief pitchers. And what surprises me is there's no more shift. So it's like, how's this happening?
Yeah, well, it will still happen from time to time, but I will say that as bad as it is to happen to your team, Tom Hamilton still had an amazing call. So everyone should go back and try and find that audio if they can. He's the best in the business for a reason. So that was kind of one silver lining to hear him talk about history like that. So well, that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you to all of our listeners. Go Guardians, go Browns. You have been listening to the Cleveland Sports Bros podcast.